This is Brett Nelson with Office Superintendent of Public Instruction. Welcome to our webinar this morning. We're hoping to, this is part of our ongoing dropout prevention webinar series. We had all last year and so far September, October, and now November this year, focusing on things schools and communities can do to help reduce dropouts. Today we're focusing on attendance in elementary. Last month we talked about the check and connect model of attendance to help support attendance from a community organizer's point of view, which was pretty interesting. We had Treehouse and what they do for foster care youth. Talk a little bit about attendance this morning. Before I let Jake talk, we have Jake Alabiso from Barnes Elementary and Kelso School District today to present on what they're doing to increase attendance in the elementary level. A couple things about attendance. I don't know if there's a national initiative going on right now. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. Department of Justice, Housing and Urban Development, Department of Education are all working together to see how all of their different supports can help influence attendance in schools. They had a webinar last week with Attendance Works and talking about some of the strategies they use, and some things that came up that I thought were interesting was Rhode Island's done some research into their absenteeism in their kindergarten, and showing a lot of correlation there between that and their third grade reading levels, as well as a bunch of their other indicators. So showing that myth that early attendance isn't important is just that. It's a myth. Those are key indicators that those kids are going to be off track the rest of their schooling. Another slide they had, I thought, was a good synopsis of the idea of why students don't come to school. The myths. Absences are only a problem if they're unexcused. We know that's false. We know that more affluent parents tend to write notes, and low-income parents don't tend to write notes as well. So it's a very skewed system of unexcused to excused absences. The idea that it's okay to miss a day here and there, they add up. Attendance only matters in later grades. Rhode Island shows that's not true. And just thinking about those barriers, it's not all school based. There's plenty of blame to go around, plenty of supports that these students needed. There are definitely a lot of school based supports that are needed, and I think that's what Jake's going to present to us today. So without further ado, Jake, I'm going to pass it over to you. Hopefully, yes. And welcome, Jake.
Thanks, Red. I appreciate it. Here's my Facebook page. Let's get to the presentation. The Facebook page we'll get back to, actually. There's some cool stuff we're doing with attendance on Facebook. But let me get this set up.
I can start.
All right. So hopefully everyone can see my first slide at this point. Let me get rid of. Oh. Right now, can you see that dialog box I have too?
No, we don't see that, Jake.
Okay, perfect then. All right, so I'm good to go. All right, so you'll see I titled this thing A Conversation About the Barnes Elementary Attendance Initiative. And the thing for me that is really important, and it's harder to do over a webinar, but I'd like to have some conversation about what we're doing. If I just kind of shout at you for the next 55 minutes or so, you'll pick some stuff up. But I think if we really try to converse and you ask a lot of questions and we have some dialogue, I think in a day and age where it seems like everybody, rattles off their 140 characters and then waits for a one-line response, that shuts down deeper thinking. So I'd like to really try to have some conversation today, knowing that it's a little more difficult through webinar form, but let's give it our best shot. You can type in questions, Red will field those and get those to me, and I'm happy to answer those at any time or as we're going to make it more conversational. So, here's what our agenda looks like. We don't have a ton of time. I just did this presentation at Northwest PBIS last week, this conversation, and I had about 2.5 hours, and that wasn't enough time. So we're going to be going kind of fast, and we got to get through a bunch of our background stuff, like who am I and what do we do at Barnes. This is going to be kind of PBIS based, and for those of you who are familiar with PBIS stuff, we'll just kind of roll through that. If you have some questions about that, though, I'm happy to field those as well. Our attendance initiative follows a PBIS framework, so it's really important that we have some background in the Barnes PBIS system. Then in part 2 here, we'll talk some attendance basics, some of the things that Rhett was referring to. We'll talk about our data before we started to implement our attendance initiative, and then applying the basic PBIS principles to improve attendance. And then I'll share some of my post data with you, what it looks like after implementation, and then of course at the end too, maybe a little more time for any questions or discussion. Okay, so this first part around background, we'll talk a little bit about these guys. These are our attend-a-bears, and when we get to how we recognize and track our attendance, we'll spend a little more time talking about these guys. So we know we have to have a learning target. You know, if anybody from my teaching and learning department is tuning in today, I better have a learning target and let you know exactly what we're shooting for. So here's what I'm hoping. Basically that we'll be able to converse, and then you'll understand even at a deeper level the importance of attendance, and then be able to apply that to your schools. And that with this improved understanding of attendance, you'll be able to bring 1 to 3 ideas out of what we talk about today. And I hope this is really applicable. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on philosophy or research. I'll share some of that with you. But I hope today you walk away with some strategies that you can start doing immediately to help support better attendance in your settings. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about me. That's me. And working here at our Bear Boot Camp, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. This is at the beginning of the year, so this is a picture from this year. I've been in Kelso School District now. This is my 16th year. I've done everything in the district from being a school psychologist to an instructional coach to an intervention specialist. My latest title is climate and culture specialist. And I've kind of hit the spectrum as far as which kids I work with. I have a broad range of working with kids pretty intensely in special education. I supported the Kelso School District Elementary EBD program for about 12 years. So I have a lot of experience working with our toughest of tough kids with behavior and emotional disabilities. And then I've also, all along the way, always worked with all kids. My intervention specialist title has allowed me to go into classrooms, conduct classroom meetings, work with general education kids just as much as special education kids. Mostly at the elementary level. I have worked a little bit at the high school and middle school levels as well. Another part, and I sent a presentation, or this, I don't know what access you have to the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint I originally sent to Rhett has a lot more in it. This one is kind of the reduced version, but if you got that one, there's also a little bit about my personal philosophy, which we don't have a ton of time to go into. But this idea, I'm sorry,
I do have the draft webinar that you sent me that you used at PBIS. I have that on our website, which is k12.wa.us/gate/results.aspx. I'm posting that in the chat box. But I do have that up there if people want access to that.
Right on. And so that one is like the one I just did at Northwest PBIS when I had about 2.5 hours. So there's a lot more in that one. But one thing you'll see if you look at that section is this idea on why any of us do what we do. And this idea, if we had more time, I would really like to get into, because it is tied so directly to what we do with attendance. This belief of why we do the things we do in our settings and how that is different of what we do and how we do it. And this is around Simon Sinek's work about start with why. If you have a chance, Google Simon Sinek and look at his why stuff. My other presentation has a little bit in there, but I will just say briefly, since we don't have a ton of time to go into this, I have a very strong why around closing the opportunity gap for Kelso kids. We'll talk a little bit about who our kids are, and you'll see that our kids are just right out of the gate coming to us with some disadvantages. And the thing I always want to do every time I walk in this building every single day is put into action things that will close that gap for our kids so that they just have limitless opportunity when they walk out of here and move through the rest of the Kelso School District system. And that why, when I started working on attendance, only became stronger, because I believe one of the things that we can all do that makes some of the biggest difference for kids is just get them to school, and especially kids who are living in poverty. Their attendance rates are much lower across the board. All right, so a little bit about who we are. So we are Barnes Elementary, Kelso School District, Kelso, Washington. I'm sure you've all vacationed in Kelso, spent lots of time here, so you know exactly where we are. Most likely not. For most people, Kelso is a rest stop along the way between Seattle and Portland. So if you don't know where Kelso is, it goes Portland, Vancouver, Woodland, Kelso, Longview, all the way up to Seattle. A little bit about our kids. Any given year, we have between 350 to 375 kids, and we are grades K through 5. So here's a little bit about our demographics. And as you can see, we're a pretty white-looking school. Almost 73% of our kids being self-identifying as white and their families, with our next greatest population being our Hispanic kids. So a little bit more about us. When I came to Kelso, I actually came the year after this, but when I came to Barnes in 2000, the year before I got here, our free and reduced rate at Barnes Elementary was 40%. And then about halfway into my tenure here, we jumped to 73%. And on our OSPI report card site last May, we're up to 82%. So you can see our community has changed quite a bit in the 15 or 16 years that I've been here, and a lot of that just has to do with the industry that has moved out of Kelso. We used to have a lot going on with Weyerhaeuser. We had a ton going on with Reynolds Aluminum and good family wage jobs, and a lot of those jobs have left our area. And correlated with that is a higher population of kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So you can see, along with that, we have a higher percentage of special education students. 15% of our kids qualify for special education. That includes all kids and a district-wide program that we have, our significant disability program. A little bit higher than what you would like to see for sure. Again, the state fund's like 12.7%. So you can see, again, we're pretty heavily impacted. 6% of our students identified as ELL. And that we've been implementing some form of PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and supports, for about 15, 16 years, 17 years now. And we've been implementing what I think is a fully realized system, implementing all the pieces of PBIS, maybe not as well as we would like or as deeply as we would like, but hitting every piece of a fully comprehensive PBIS system for about 7 years.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep, go ahead.
That was one. I just want to point out that's one of the reasons why we've been sort of paying attention to what's going on in Kelso. Is you guys have that great rate of low income kids in poverty, but you guys are still managing to graduate them and your regular kids with pretty close equity. So we're really excited about that, and glad to find out what's working.
Yeah, and I would say, our teachers in Kelso, our administration in Kelso, they get that. They understand how our community has changed over the years, and that, that means doing some things differently, attendance being one of them, really trying to meet the needs of our kids where they're at, and again, close that opportunity gap. Everybody is about just giving Kelso kids the same opportunities that more affluent districts may have. and making sure that Kelso kids can go out into our community and be successful and also compete with those kids who may have gone to school with more resources. So this map's a really interesting one. Maybe I can give a quick click on it here. If you can see, this is this Ed Build. This is kind of based on, if you ever get a chance, just Google New York Times poverty map, which is an interactive map around poverty based on the census data in 2012. It's pretty cool. This map is similar to that, but this map will give every school district in the country their level of poverty, and it shows a really interesting divide between affluent and non-affluent districts, and they can be right next door to each other, but there can be a pretty wide gap between the resources they have or the kids living in poverty in those districts. And then we know the equity between those districts based on levy dollars and all kinds of other things can be really problematic for our districts that just can't raise as much money, don't have as much tax base. And if I took the time to zoom in on this and we look directly at Kelso, our school-wide poverty rate, our district-wide poverty rate is like 20 or 30%, somewhere between 20 and 30%. But our at Barnes, it is much higher than that. And on that New York Times poverty map, you can actually zoom right in and find a school in the census tract around your school, and it will give you the exact percentage right around your school that the census tract, most of the kids you serve, what the poverty level is, the poverty rate. And that's the federal poverty level, below the poverty index as defined by the feds. So, yeah, in Kelso, poverty is something we're working with every single day. And then if you've spent any time focused on poverty and the effects of that in the literature these days, there's a lot of talk around toxic stress. If you've seen the movie Paper Tigers, which we're actually doing a screening of at Barnes this afternoon for the district and our administration, having some roundtable discussion afterwards, this idea of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, this idea that kids who are impacted by poverty, and that poverty, I want to make clear too, poverty in and of itself we know is not the issue. You can have good stability in impoverished homes. You can have all kinds of really supportive and productive things going on, but there is a correlation, those correlated risk factors with poverty that often are affecting our kids around abuse, nutrition, attendance, mental illness. And those correlated risk factors, with each one being present in the home, additional one being present in the home, we know this is affecting, at this point, science fact has told us the brain structure, the prefrontal cortex of kids. And we know prefrontal cortex is so important to executive function, is so important to all the planning, organization, inhibition, being able to shift and focus and transition, all those things that I'm sure you see in some of your schools that kids are dealing with, that poverty really affects prefrontal cortex. Toxic stress prevents, in some cases, those connections, those neural connections being made. So I just put this slide up here as a reminder to myself and everyone else that along with knowing our Kelso kids, and that some of them, 82% of our kids living near the poverty line or below the poverty line, that this idea of toxic stress is real for them, adverse childhood experiences, and that their prefrontal cortex could be affected by that. And if you haven't spent much time on this, take a look from this slide. Is from the Center on the Developing Child, from Harvard. They have some really nice stuff to explain toxic stress, some short videos. If you Google NPR, or no, this one might have been just PBIS and toxic stress, there's a nice either Frontline video, I don't know if it was Frontline, might have been one of the other ones, about 9 or 10 minutes long, talking about toxic stress and the research on that. So not enough time to go into it in depth today, but just something to be thinking about or take another look at. All right, so let's talk a little bit about who our bears are and what we believe. This is kind of the PBIS stuff. And if I hit this link right here, this will take you to our Barnes Bear video. So if you go to SchoolTube or you go to our website, you'll catch this video.
I'm Alabiso, and I'm the intervention specialist at Barnes Elementary.
And I won't go through it. It's about 12 minutes long. But the video is all about our PBIS system, our beliefs and our expectations. And so if you get a chance, either on SchoolTube or Google Barnes Elementary, Kelso, Make sure you get the Kelso in there, otherwise you'll get the Barnes Elementary in Beaverton, Oregon. And you'll see a PBIS link, and you'll get on that link, we have 2 videos. Our PBIS video about our bare expectations, and then we also have one on self-management. A key piece of our PBIS system is helping kids to learn and self-manage. So if you go through that, you'll get a pretty good idea of what our expectations are. And I'm moving to calling these beliefs. You know, we used to call them way back in the day, we used to call them rules. And then I think we moved to expectations. But this idea that they're more than that, they're really the beliefs of our culture and our climate, who we are. And so more and more I try to talk about what we believe at Barnes and what we hope our kids and families believe, instead of just, oh, here's the rule or here's the expectation. So let me give you just a brief rundown so you have some context for our attendance work, but also understanding that it comes out of the PBIS system and framework. This was not a new initiative for us. This came out of all the PBIS stuff we were already doing. It also fit along with the work we were doing around TPEP and our focus on climate and culture. So one nice thing about this for us is it didn't seem necessarily like something in addition or new. It just was more of the business we typically do. So talking about just briefly how we do things in a PBIS way, we know one of the basic PBIS principles is we got to teach our beliefs. And so here I am in classroom meeting. I'm in classrooms every day, sometimes up to 6 or 7 classrooms a day, 30 to 40 minutes, teaching our beliefs and our expectations in a classroom meeting format. One of our key ways that we teach our beliefs. This is our bear boot camp. These kids right here are learning how bears go to the bathroom and the rule of 2 and all the things that go along with that. You can see that in our video if you take the time to watch that. This is Mrs. Locke, our intervention assistant, and all of our teachers they have a station. We teach the bathroom, we teach lunch, we teach recess, we teach arrival, dismissal, parent pickup. Kids watch the videos. We do this once in the beginning of the year, once right after Christmas break, and once after spring break. And basically, kids go from station to station, learning all of our expectations and relearning all of our expectations and our beliefs. We work really hard to get everything into a matrix format, and we use this as, if you're familiar with the GLAD strategies, this is a pretty GLAD-looking classroom bear behavior chart. And you can see, if you can make it out, on the left-hand side is our be responsible, be safe, be kind, be respectful. And then across the top are the periods of the day, or the, coming into the classroom, independent work, teacher work. And we have matrices all over the building defining exactly what we want to see with kids. The ones in the classroom are really cool because they actually make their chart. They did all the drawings here. They are the ones helping develop the beliefs in their classroom. So every classroom being responsible during independent work time might look a little bit different, and it should, and kids have some say in that and then draw it and get it up on our charts. This is our PBIS night with parents and families. I could spend a whole presentation just talking about PBIS night and what that looks like, but basically parents come in, we do a whole little PBIS thing while they eat dinner, and then we break out into parent breakout sessions around attendance, self-management, how to read with your kids at home, and then the kids are watching movies and get some playtime in the gym, so parents can do that kind of kid-free. And then another way, another piece of our important teaching is PAUSE. This is positive achievement with self-management. If you're familiar with Greg Benner's work around think time, we use a lot of those strategies. Again, we don't have much time to go into that, but the teaching self-management is a very important piece of what we do. So we know with PBIS...
Jake, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody's asking, Paper Tigers is based on the Compassionate Schools model from OSPI. Do you use this in your school district?
No, district-wide we're not, but part of the screening and what we're trying to do is moving more towards some of those strategies. So I would say we're just at the very beginning stages of having discussion about that stuff.
And the other question is, they were asked about your student population. Do you guys have a significant number of McKinney-Vento students?
Yeah, I would not say we have a significant number, but we do have. I don't have that number right on me. Not a ton, but we do.
That's all.
Okay. So a little bit about our recognition. Like a lot of PBIS systems, we're always handing out these tickets or PAUSE. We call them PAUSE. And you can see there's our BEAR acronym: behaves responsibly, extremely safe, always kind, and respectful to all. And we're handing these things out like crazy. Kids put them in a honey pot in their classroom. We draw out of the honey pot. They then get their name on the big honey pot. You can see here, we draw out of the big honey pot. They get their name on the honey pot. Name goes on Facebook. They go out to recess early. The big honey pot we draw out of 3 times a year. They go to Bearabration. We have the bears show up. We have a bear costume. Our superintendent or board members usually come down. They get food. They play games at this big Bearabration. We also work hard on our discipline data and our discipline system. What you see here are our bear paws. The paw has at the top, be kind, be safe, be responsible, and be respectful in the pad of the paw. And these kids who don't get any discipline referrals earn their next sticker, or they color in the next circle on their bear card. And if they color in 3 out of 4 for the year, they get to go to Bearapalooza, which is a big celebration at the end of the year with food and recess games against our teachers. Pretty big celebration that kids are really pumped up about. This here's something new. This is our Big Bear shout out. We originally put this in place thinking a few parents might drop a Big Bear shout out to people, and it turns out teachers, kids, I thought we might get 1 of these or 2 of these a week to read. We literally have 500 of these things in this box now, and we are reading 3 or 4 a day, but we can't even keep up with it. It has been really successful in just talking about the positive things and recognizing kids positively, teachers and parents in our school. Here's our Big Bear. This one's Bearapalooza. This is a teacher playing tetherball with kids, and these are kids who did not get any discipline referrals or no more than 1 discipline referral, and were able to participate at the end of the year. So a little more on equity. These things here, don't have a ton of time, but this is our check and connect system. It is called Fresh Start, and this is our way of Tier 2 and Tier 3 and kids who need additional support with our BEAR beliefs. And we don't have a ton of time to go into it today, but basically, like most check and connects, kids come in the morning, meet with an adult, set some goals for the day. We follow them through the day, checking in and checking out with them several times, and they earn these BEAR bucks. The BEAR Tracks card follows them through the day. If we do this right, a kid gets an additional 20 or more contacts, positive contacts with an adult supporting their BEAR behavior throughout the day. And this is one for the little guys. We actually build bears. And so little guys, not using the BEAR card, but using this Build-A-Bear, they earn pieces to their bear, and every single day they're trying to become a bear and build their bear behavior. And if they go a certain period of time showing us their bear behavior, they earn the next piece. By the end of the day, if they build their bear, they get rewarded as well. Just, we got to always talk a little bit about data. We know we need to have data-driven decisions. We use the Swiss system for our behavioral referrals, or discipline referrals, tickets, however you guys refer to them. We also spend a lot of time doing some nomination. This is just our nomination form from teachers for kids with internalizing, externalizing behaviors and getting them into the services they need. We meet 3 times a year with teachers to put kids into social emotional groups, individual counseling, our Fresh Start program, hook them up with outside resources. This is part of that form, really basic, but just gets teachers thinking about which kids they believe need services as well. And then we use a lot of the PBIS assessment stuff, if you're familiar with this. We use the team implementation checklist, the school-wide evaluation tool, the benchmarks quality, all of those things to kind of keep us on track and guide our PBIS system. So that's the end of part 1. That's really just some background information on who Kelso kids are, and then our system in supporting them, our PBIS system. So I know I ran through that really quick. I often spend whole days just teaching our PBIS or presenting on our PBIS system. But I'll stop here and pause for a second if there's any questions or anything I can clarify before we move on to the attendance piece.
You can continue, Jake. Thanks.
Right on. All right, so let's talk about some basics. When it comes to attendance, well then I'll show you our pre-implementation data, and then I'll talk about, I say up here, PBISing attendance. Because really all we did was take those principles I just shared with you around having a belief, teaching that belief, recognizing that belief, using some data to make some decisions, and then also supporting those kids who are Tier 2, Tier 3, they need additional support. We just applied that to attendance. And I won't hold back. It has been really effective. So here we go. This is one of my favorite cartoons. I just think, as a psychologist, it hits me. I don't think we talk enough about attendance. I mean, I think there's several elephants in education. We could probably all come up with our personal ones and ones in the literature. For me, they are usually around behavior. I think that can be a big elephant in the room. Poverty, which we've touched on today, can be a big elephant in the room. And then also attendance. I will say Barnes, we lived with this elephant. Sometimes we didn't even know we were living with it. I like this cartoon a lot too. This idea that, yeah, kids can be not doing well because of attendance deficit disorder. And if we could just get them a little Citylin, everything would be good, right? All right, so a few basics. 95% attendance, the research is converging around 95% attendance rate for your schools and for individual students is what we're shooting for. It is the bare minimum. If you want to make sure you don't have large gaps of kids missing school, many missed days, you really need to be shooting more for a 97, 98% attendance rate, but 95% is the minimum. So if you've got a 180-day schedule, this means that a kid has to show up 171 days. And to put that differently, we'll talk about regular attendance, at-risk attendance, and chronic absenteeism. You can't miss more than 9 days, which I think for some people in and of itself is new information. 1 day a month we're talking about here. And actually, it's not even 1 day a month because we got 10 months of school. So you got to have perfect attendance for 1 month. This was news to us at Barnes, but it did start to frame the work we had to do. So I think it's a really important piece. So the research is, again, converging around that if we get to more than 10 or more missed days, that's when we really start to see an impact on content areas, academic areas, and especially for our kids living in poverty. So there's that idea that we can't, if we have regular attendance, on average, we can't miss more than 1 day a month. So between 10 and 17 missed days, this is considered at risk. So regular attendance, you're still absent 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks. If we get to 10 to 17 missed days, you're getting into 3 weeks, approaching 4 weeks of missed school. And I think when people think about it in those terms, you know, if you've ever just personally missed 2 to 4 weeks of work, how far behind do you feel? You know, think about our kids who can be missing this much school and how that's impacting their learning. And not only their learning, but the learning of the kids in the classroom when teachers need to slow down, or they need to go back and review, or they need to try and catch kids up. It impacts the learning of the entire class. And then this idea of being chronically absent, 18 or more missed days, getting upwards of a month of school, 10% of school. And the research is really clear here. If you get to 4 weeks of missed school, academics are almost, and we're talking in generalizations here. There's always the kid that is super resilient and does well no matter what. But in general, 18 or more missed days, we're going to see some really adverse impacts to their reading, writing, math skills. So this all comes out of the attendanceworks.org stuff. I would encourage you, if you haven't been there, or if you have been there, go back frequently. Their stuff is awesome. And we steal a lot of their stuff. And these facts and the research, a lot of this comes right from that. So 64% of kids who have regular attendance in kindergarten and first grade will reach standard or meet standard by the end of third grade. But if they have at-risk attendance, you can see that starts to drop. If they're chronically absent in either kindergarten or first grade, it drops even more. And then this is the one that literally brings me to my knees. That if we have a kid chronically absent in kindergarten and first grade, their chances of being at standard with regard to reading by the end of third grade is only 17%. So moving from a 64% chance of being at standard to a 17% chance of being at standard, just based on those first early years. And this is where, you know, Rhett's introduction there about, you know, oh, it doesn't matter in elementary school, you know, attendance is for worrying about in high school. No, this is when it really matters. We are building those reading skills now, and if our kids do not get them, we know what happens down the road. This. So children who are struggling to read by the end of the 3rd grade are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school. So now is the time, and attendance, I believe, means everything, especially in those first elementary years. And there's the Attendance Works link. Again, I encourage you to go there. Here it is just shown a different way. This is again from the Attendance Works stuff, and you can just see this is more in bar graph form. And the impact that attendance has on reading proficiency. This is based on some of the DIBELS data that was used in this study. This is just the words that kids are reading per minute, and you can see, 98.8 words correct per minute in 2nd grade, if not chronically absent, and then it just goes from chronically absent in pre-K, chronically absent in pre-K plus kindergarten, chronically absent in pre-K plus kindergarten plus 1st grade, and you can just see how at each step with more and more missed school, those scores just drop. And there's, where the benchmarks are. So one thing about DIBELS, whatever you think about DIBELS, whether you use it, you like it, or you don't, it is a pretty easy measure for people to understand. Words read correct per minute. With each year that a kid is chronically absent, goes down and drops significantly. So, a kid who's reading 25 or more less words per minute by the time they get to 2nd grade, heavily impacted. So if we connect some of the dots here, a kid who is absent 2 days in the month of September as a kindergartner, if you believe the preceding data I presented to you, we know that kid is already at risk from not graduating from Kelso High School. And some people think this statement is over the top, and in some ways I see their thinking, but if we don't correct, or it isn't an anomaly that that child missed those 2 days, if that's going to become a pattern, the data is clear. They won't learn to read. If they don't learn to read by the end of 3rd grade, their chances of ever reading at grade level drop significantly. If they're not reading by grade level by the time they get into middle school and high school, their chances of dropping out of school become increasingly more. So we take this seriously. If we have a kindergartner who has missed 2 days, we know if we don't intervene, and it could be the kid had strep throat, it could be the parents went on vacation, but we need to figure out why they miss school, and then if it's for reasons other than big sick, as we tell kids, or big family emergencies, then we need to help that family. So you can just see here, this is students dropping out with the number of years they're chronically absent. So if they don't have any years chronically absent from 8th through 12th grade, 10% dropout rate. But if they got 4 or more years chronically absent by the time in 8th and 12th grade, by the time they're 8th and 12th graders, they have a 61% chance of dropping out.
Jake, you're probably going to go into this, but this is just bringing up all those ideas of the value of the early warning systems and using data, thinking about those kids that just miss days here and there, and it's not necessarily that visible that they're missing that much school. I'm wondering a little bit about how you guys monitor and track that, and who looks at that sort of data
so we'll talk about that in our data section when we get to how we're doing our system.
Super.
Yeah, so here's just, again, for our kids living in poverty or near the poverty level, free and reduced lunch eligible, how attendance in 9th grade and then graduation, how for our kids who are chronically absent, how that just falls off the charts. And look at the difference for kids that are not eligible for free and reduced, chronically absent compared to the kids that are eligible for free and reduced. Every step along the way, these kids have a harder time graduating. The interesting thing is, if they have regular attendance at 85.5%, they're not nearly as far behind kids who are not eligible as they are when they get to being chronically absent. So 67% versus 37%. Just another way to say, this is an equity issue. Attendance is an equity issue. I don't really have anything here other than I think this is funny. These kids, I can see it coming out. I don't have to go to class. I can just follow you on Twitter. All right. So let's talk a little bit about where we were. 2013, 2014. Only 92.43% of our kids were coming to school. You can see here the attendance percentages on the left, the number of days that represents, the number of students in each one of those bands, and then the percentage of students. 44% of our kids in 2013-14 were attending school regularly, 0 to 9 missed days of school. And I should also say, I haven't mentioned, we don't differentiate. Missed school is missed school. Unexcused, excused, it doesn't matter to us. If you did not come, you missed a learning opportunity you can never make up. Those hours are gone. So given that, this is our reality, we decided enough's enough. We've got some work to do. And we attended a PBIS session with Jessica Sprick, Randy Sprick's daughter, and she really kicked our butt on attendance, and we just decided no more. We have to do some work around attendance. So our PBIS team took up the initiative. Again, not new necessarily, just a part of our PBIS system. We applied the 5 basic principles of PBIS: develop a belief, teach the belief, recognize students who behave in ways consistent with that belief, analyze the data, and then provide additional support. We also communicate a ton with parents. So here's our belief. We have a learning target. All our kids get this learning target. Barnes students can achieve a 95% attendance rate for the current school year, and this means they're going to attend 171 days of school. We teach this over and over and over. We teach it to parents. We teach it to kids. Here it is written up in it's around our school. This one's in our front showcase where our bear path is. I'll tell you a little bit about that. So it started with us for a belief. Our Barnes kids can do this. Our implicit bias, our straight up bias that said kids living in poverty, it's too hard for them to come to school, we moved past that and we decided we can do something about this. We saw this primarily as a home-based problem, and we decided as teachers, we're dealing with home-based problems all the time. Let's deal with this too. So we do a bunch of teaching. We developed a system that targets the 4 main stakeholders: staff, students, parents, and you got to get your community involved. So our teaching focused on the attendance expectation. Kids are going to come to school 171 days at a minimum. And then we talked a lot about, with parents and teachers and community and kids, what are legitimate reasons and illegitimate reasons for missing school. And we just put it out there. You miss school when you are big sick, fever, throwing up, and when you have big family emergencies. You had a fire at your house, you have a death in your family, and we don't. And we hold the line there. And we always give parents, we always say, look, it's your job to parent your kids, and you'll make choices about when your kid doesn't come to school and does come to school, but we want to let you know this is what we believe about attendance, because we know what the data is telling us. If your kid doesn't show up, they are much more likely to struggle down the road and then have much less chance graduating from high school. So we talk about going on vacation is not, in our eyes, a good reason for missing school. Mom's birthday, staying home because brother is sick, staying home because mom is sick. These are not reasons for missing school. And we will always respect family decisions, but we want to make sure you know and understand what our... So we deliver that instruction, again, through classroom meetings. I spend a lot of time in classrooms talking about attendance. We have a back-to-school night where we talk about attendance every single time. Our back-to-school night isn't parents just go to the classrooms and talk with teachers. They actually spend some time with us as a whole group, and we usually spend some time having a discussion around attendance and self-management and positive behavior. We have that parent PBIS night that I talked about, our school newsletter.
Hey, Jake?
Yep, go ahead.
How often do you have those back-to-school nights and those PBIS conference meetings?
Yeah, the back-to-school night is right at the beginning of school, usually either right before school or the first week or two of school. We've switched that around over the years. And then our PBIS night, that happens usually 1 to 2 times a year. We do lots. Tomorrow night we're having a literacy night. We have math game night. We have, we're school-wide title school. We have funds to support those family night activities. And so usually a couple times a year. Facebook works for us. Let me just show you our Facebook page really quickly here. This post right here, this happened last night. After school, Barnes teachers got together and made phone calls home to any families whose students were having regular attendance since the beginning of the year, and we just wanted to say thank you and that we truly appreciate all you're doing to get your kids to school, and that we didn't get through all the classes. We're going to keep calling. We know you maybe didn't get a call because your kid was seriously sick or had a family emergency, but if their attendance approves, you'll get a call. And then we reached 727 people through this. We had 40-something likes, and then we got all these nice positive, you know, I just got the call a few minutes ago. We're pretty proud of ourselves. Thank you for all the calls we got today. This is the kind of thing we're trying to do to reach out to our parents. And then also along this, I'm always kind of throwing something up here. Here's our Barnes Bear video. I'm throwing up here some attendance messaging. So, you know, there's one down here about this one here. Families in the past, as we head into the winter months, our attendance usually drops. December and January typically our lowest attending months. So we're always just trying to message with parents every way we know that is effective for them. We also haven't done the Twitter stuff, but we have plans to get on Twitter. Our school website, again, take a look at that. This attendance tracker is really cool. We send this out to parents. They can keep track of their attendance. So we ask parents to partner with us to keep track of it. So then moving on to some recognition stuff. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Yeah, we'll jump onto some recognition. So just know that we are teaching this thing in lots of different ways. Let's look at the recognition piece. Okay, so recognition's targeted at the building and individual and classroom level. We've got a bear path, we got an attendance graph, we got a big bear barbecue, we got an attendant bear. I'll show you all these things. At the individual level, we have our roar earners and roar stock. But we are always trying to hit building level, class level, and individual level with our recognition. Here's our bear path. We are trying to get to 60,705 days of school. Each month we put how many days our bears have attended. They move the bear along the path. You can see our attendance target there, learning target. And their goal is to get that bear to his bear cave at the top. This is just a visual for kids. And every time a kid walks in, I'm greeting kids every morning. I say, nice job, you're moving the bear. Strong work. Here's another shot of it. Here's our attendance graph. You can see we had 96% attendance here in September, our highest ever, 96.1 actually. We fill that out for the year. Greens for above 95%, yellows for at risk, reds for if we have a chronically absent month. We build bears. Every time kids show up in the classroom, if they have 95% of their children there, they earn a tally mark. They get to 10 tally marks. They start dressing bears. The goal is to get their bear completely dressed by the end of the year. This year we put them all on the stage in our cafeteria. You can just see a bunch of our attendant bears there. That's at the classroom level. And then at the individual level, we do these roar earners. So regular outstanding attendance recipients or receivers, any kid who is 1 or less absences a month gets their name on a bear paw. You can see down at the corner of the chart here that they're using. And they're just filling up this chart on the way to their bear cave. And then these roar earners, out of the roar earners from that class, we pick 2 earners, and they get to have lunch on the stage, and McDonald's provides the lunch monthly. So kids go into a drawing from their individual classrooms, 2 kids from each class based on regular attendance. Here's all our regular earners last year, the first month. There's all our kids who came to school, missing only 0 or 1 days for the first month of school. And then this last one here is just some more of our roar visuals for kids. Again, recognition, recognition, recognition. Here they are eating on the stage. At the end of the year, we do a big bear barbecue. Any kids with regular attendance, all families are invited, but those kids get special recognition. They get drawings. We cook up awesome food. We actually do a real barbecue, not school lunch barbecue. And we have just a big party, play on the playground. Our fire department shows up. Last year they got the fire truck in and hosed down our kids for like a half an hour. They've never had so much fun. Here's the data piece. We use Skyward and Homeroom, and I can tell you, Rhett, you were asking about the data. The data is crucial. I'm constantly reviewing the data for weekly for kids that are falling into at-risk. And then we have a whole system. We have an attendance team that helps support this, myself, the principal, and the counselor. And then we communicate with teachers about their kids that aren't attending regularly. And then we have a process I'll explain in a minute for how we pick those kids up. This is the additional support based on that data. Teacher contact. So once I will put an attendance, the attendance data in their boxes, teacher boxes monthly, and then they will be the first point of contact. It is not our school nurse calling anymore, who your attendance person is. It is our teachers. We feel teachers know our parents the best. They'll make the first contact, and the contact is super positive. Everything with this. This is not Becca. This is not you've messed up as a parent. This is, hey, your kid's not getting here, and we are so worried. If the parent or the family doesn't respond to that, then the attendance team makes contact. Again, based on our attendance data, using our district-wide attendance system, Skyward, and then also Homeroom. I can't speak enough if you're using Homeroom in your district or your school. It is amazing when it comes to attendance. You got to have the data. Attendance is really weird. It's hard to get good data on attendance. We have attendance or data like crazy on reading, math, all the others. Attendance is a little bit harder. If our attendance team contact doesn't work, a phone call, a brief meeting, then we have a formalized meeting, bringing the parent in. And that's the end of part 2. So basically, taking all of our PBIS stuff, just applying it to attendance. Let's have a belief. Let's teach that belief through a variety of ways to all the stakeholders. Let's then, after teaching that belief, recognize the kids who are getting it done. And then for those kids who aren't getting it done, those families who aren't getting it done, let's provide additional support based on the data. For us, it was pretty straightforward, but we have a pretty realized, 15, 17, 18-year system going on at Barnes when it comes to PBIS. All right, so before I share the data in the last 7, 8, 9 minutes we have here, any questions, anything about that? I know it was really fast.
It's great stuff. I really like, that focus on the school climate being the real support there, and then just how you can use data to see how that's working, and if you're having educational outcomes such as attendance from that, and how you can improve a specific target like that too.
Yeah, our data was key. It took us a while to figure it out. I mean, we have a Dibbles database, we have MAP, we have STAR, we have our Smarter Balance data and assessment. For some reason, attendance data is harder to get. It took a long time with me working with my Skyward district level person to figure out the type of reports we needed. Homeroom, if you're using that, and a lot of districts in the state are, that makes everything so much easier. Nice graphs. And then once you have that data, you know who you're targeting, and you know who you're recognizing. It has been key to us. All right, so let me share some of the data with you. So here we were in 2013-14, and here we were last year. And you can see, again, our minimum rate being 95. We're not all the way there for every month. Matter of fact, we only got there for 2 months, but you can see we increased 2%. And everybody's like, 2%, what could that be? Let me tell you, it's lots and lots of kids, and it's lots and lots of recouped instruction. And I'll share that in a few more slides. So this was at each individual grade level. And you can see our Ks weren't coming to school. Neither were our first graders. By the time they get to 5th grade, they can do a better job of getting themselves to school. But then look what happened. 4% increase in kindergarten. A little bit less, actually. And even our 5th graders are only grade level to get above 95%. So here's where I think the data is really striking. Here are some comparisons to other Barnes or other Kelso schools. These are our 7 elementary schools. You can see in 2013-14 we were dead last. We had the lowest attendance rate in the district, elementary level. You can see here we had the lowest number of children attending regularly. Only 44% of our kids were coming to school regularly. In the middle there, again, that's our free and reduced rate. You can see that we had the 5th highest number of at-risk kids, 10 to 18 days, 10 to 17 days. And this one straightened me up really quick. The most chronically absent kids in the district, elementary level. So here it is as of last year, after we implemented all the teaching, all the belief, the expectation, the data collection, and then the targeting and the recognition. You can see we moved to the 3rd best attendance of elementary schools, and look at our free and reduced rate of 82% last year compared to the 2 schools in front of us, and then even the schools behind us. The rest of the Kelso schools have not taken on a formal attendance initiative as of yet. They're starting to do pieces. So we move to 2nd. Go ahead.
Hey, Jake, we're almost out of time here. There's a good question out there that I wanted to get raised, which is, what's the makeup of the attendance team at your school? Like, who's involved? What's that sort of process there?
Yeah, so all of this comes out of our PBIS team, but then the team that actually focuses on individual kids, keeps track of the attendance data, gets that information into teachers' hands, lets them know who they need to call. That is made up of 3 people right now. That is myself, the school counselor, and our principal. A couple other pieces. We moved to the best, lowering our at-risk attendance. While we've got some more work to do here with chronic absenteeism, you can see we moved from 25% to 18%. And then if you start to look at the differences year over year, and we're just starting a trend. I understand this is 1 year's worth of data. I'm not like saying, look, we've solved this problem. Talk to me again in another 3, 4, 5 years. Have we maintained this growth? Then we'll really know. But you can see here the difference, how much we improved with our regular attenders, how much we cut down our at-risk, the category of at-risk attendance, and then chronic absenteeism, again, big difference there. And then the good news, this was our trend. You can see kind of the bluish gray is our free and reduced rate going up from 2010 to 2013, a direct inverse correlation. You can see our attendance dropping the more our free and reduced went up. And then with all of this, we did this. We changed the trend. And we're hoping these lines will eventually cross. Here's our current data. Yep.
Thanks, Jake. We are pretty much out of time, but thanks so much for presenting. It's great to see the results that you're getting with this targeted approach that you're doing on attendance, and I think a lot of people are appreciating that. Wish we could talk more about it.
Yeah,
always.
Let me just throw my contact information up here, Rhett.
Okay.
This was really quick today. We're just touching on things, obviously, hoping just to get people kind of inspired to think about this a little more and start to think of the small things they can do. Remember our learning target, 1 to 3 things. Is there anything that you heard today that you could start to think about and apply? And then please contact me. Here's my my phone number. Here is my school email. I am happy to talk about this stuff and help support schools with wherever they are in their attendance journey. I just believe this is an equity issue. It is one of the best ways to close the opportunity gap for kids.
I couldn't agree more, Jake. At OSPI, we're partnering with DOH and Department of Health, Department of Social Health Services, the State Board of Community Technical Colleges, all of the GATE partners, really, to think about how we can all support attendance and use that as a goal and metric for all of our systems here in the state, and how we can support local systems like yours. So we're looking forward to figuring that out. Next month, our webinar will be on, it's going to be sort of a targeted one towards looking at dropout data, specifically thinking about what gets coded in CEDARS and what we show at the state, and how we can strategies that districts and registrars and district personnel can put forth to improve, reduce that number of unknown transfers, unknown students, dropout, other reason, so that we can get a better view of who's actually dropping out. It's a simple way of not only increasing your graduation by better tracking that data, but a better way of responding to those students that are in crisis and are dropping out. Thanks, Jake, today for this. Appreciate it. Appreciate any questions, any response from the field. I'll get the video of this webinar online ASAP and update the PowerPoint to the one we used today. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.